Hi. Proverbs 9:10 says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One, understanding. I'm going to read an excerpt of what that might look like. After he had talked for a while, I felt like I wanted to ask him some questions. The first question I asked was, Jim, when did you fall out of love with Jesus? When did you stop loving Jesus? Was it when you committed adultery? 7 years before you got thrown into prison? Was it the fraud? When did it really happen? Because I remember he was on fire for God in the earlier years. He looked at me and said, John, I didn't. I said, what do you mean you didn't? He said, I didn't fall out of love with Jesus. I loved him all the way through it. And then he saw total bewilderment on my face. I said, what do you mean? He said, John, I love Jesus, but I didn't fear God. There are millions of Christians in America who love Jesus, but don't fear him. And it is the fear of the Lord that perfects holiness in our life. And it's so true. People want to look at Old Testament situations like Onan in Genesis 38:10. He dies instantly. Or maybe Ananias and Sapphira in Acts 5. They lie about what they've sold and what they've kept, and they're gone. They think, okay, if God's going to get me, he's going to get me that way. Sometimes it's an erosion internally. If you look at what occurred with Saul in 1 Samuel chapter 15, Samuel lets him know, hey, what's this bleeding I hear? It's better that you had been obedient to what God has ordained than to think about sacrifice. And to show Saul's heart in the very next verse, he's saying, hey, could you, salute me, honor me in front of my elders? That's where his heart was. It wasn't about fearing God. It wasn't about even knowing God. Because he comes back, hey, come back and let me worship with you, with your God, not my God. He has to be our God, and he has to be preeminent in our lives. Machiavelli in The Prince, he said it's best to be both feared and loved. Somewhere in America, we lost half that equation because it's easier to market love. But if we don't have proper reverence, fear of God, not how powerful he is, but what our lives would be like without him, we're missing out. The greatest moves of God, and you can look at it throughout the Bible, maybe there'll be a second video on this topic, but God moved when his people feared him. That's something to consider when you're getting back to basics. Grace and peace.